Today's story is about a girl who gets a terrible curse because of her boyfriend, because of which, wherever she goes, she sees dangerous souls who try to kill her again and again, and she keeps running from here to there to save her life. But will she be able to get rid of this curse or not? And in the beginning of the story, a girl named Annie runs out of her house and comes out on the road. And she was so scared that some invisible force was following her. However, the whole road was empty. After that, she runs back home and comes out running from home the next moment, and quickly takes her car and reaches a beach, where she goes and starts talking to her dad on the phone, crying, and says, "I love you all very much, and forgive me for whatever mistakes I have made. Please forgive me. I may not be alive for long." Then the next morning, we see the girl whose dead body is lying on the beach, who was mysteriously killed by someone at night. Now, who killed her so mercilessly? And what was that mysterious thing that she was running away from? We will know this in the story. After that, we see a girl named Jenny in this city who was swimming. Then her sister Kelly comes there and asks about her new boyfriend, Harry. So Jenny tells that tonight she is going on a date with her new boyfriend. After that, when she comes inside the house, she sees that two friends have come to meet her, whose names are Paul and Yara. But Paul was upset to hear that Jenny is going on a date with her new boyfriend, because he liked Jenny a lot. In the next scene, we see Jenny going to watch a movie with her boyfriend. But during this time, Harry sees a girl in a yellow dress. So Harry asks Jenny, "Do you see a girl in a yellow dress?" So Jenny says, "No, I don't see any girl." Hearing this, Harry gets very scared and comes out with Jenny from there. Then at night, they go to the beach and they start kissing while talking. Jenny tells him that we should go in the car. After that, they start enjoying the storm and the earthquake. This was Jenny's first date, and she gets very happy with this enjoyment. But after that, Harry suddenly makes Jenny unconscious. Then when Jenny comes to her senses, she sees herself tied to a wheelchair, and Harry was around her, who starts talking to Jenny while looking for someone by lighting a torch, and says that I have been cursed, because of which someone is always following me to kill me, because I was intimate with a bartender, and since then all this is happening to me. But I understood that to escape this, I will have to be intimate with someone, so that this curse is transferred to him. That's why I had to do this to you, and transfer this curse on her. Meanwhile, we see that NTT reaches there as a girl and starts moving towards them. And now Jenny could have seen him too. But Harry quickly runs away with Jenny and drops her outside her house. After which, Jenny's friends come and take care of her. Then we see that the police also come there. But Jenny does not get any special information about Harry, because Harry had come from some other town, so no one recognizes him here. Now, a few days later, we see that Jenny goes to her school. And when the class was going on, she sees an old woman outside, who was coming towards her in a hospital gown. So she understands that this is the same entity. After which she runs away from the classroom in fear. But still, that old woman slowly follows her and starts following her. But Jenny quickly takes the car and comes to her house. And after coming home, she tells this to Kelly and Paul. But they both could not believe her. But on this, Paul says that tonight he will stay at Jenny's house and keep an eye on her all night. So after nightfall, Jenny was sleeping with her sister Kelly, but she was not sleepy. So she comes to Paul, where he was watching TV sitting on the sofa. Now the two are talking to each other. Then suddenly she hears the sound of glass breaking from the kitchen. So Paul goes and checks. and then comes to Jenny and says, "The glass in the kitchen is broken, but there is no one there." After that, he goes up to call Kelly, so Jenny gets up from there and goes to the kitchen, and then she sees the same entity there, which is slowly coming towards her as a scary girl. And seeing this, she gets very scared and runs to her room and locks the door. After that, Kelly and Paul come there and ask to open the door, so she opens it. But they were not able to see the entity, so they could not believe it. Then someone else comes and knocks on the door. She sees an entity behind Yara. Jenny jumps out of the balcony and runs to a playground with a cycle. After a while, all her friends come looking for her. Her neighbor Greg was also with her. Jenny tells them everything again. They make a plan to find Harry. So everyone leaves Greg's car and reaches Harry's house. But after reaching home, they see that the house is empty and all the stuff of the house is scattered. Because Harry used to live alone by giving rent in this house. And after staying here, he transferred his curse to Jenny and left from here. Paul also gets some books of Harry, in which there was a photo of Harry with a girl. And this girl was no one else with Harry, but Annie, whom we saw at the beginning of the story. But who killed Annie, we will know later. Now in this photo, Annie was wearing a jacket, which Jenny recognizes by looking at it. And she says she knows which school jacket it is. After this, when they go to that school to find out, they find out that Harry's real name is Jeff Raymond. After which they take his address and go to Jeff's house. And after going there, Jeff meets him and apologizes to Jenny and says, "I had no option to get rid of this curse, so I had to do this," and tells Jenny, "It would be good for you to transfer this curse to someone quickly so that he leaves you. And if he comes to kill you, be careful and try to mislead him so that you get a little time to escape. I had transferred this curse to a girl named Annie, but she died and those entities followed me again. So I had to transfer this curse to Jenny. Now if Jenny dies, they will follow me again. So Jenny will have to get intimate with someone else as soon as possible, so that this curse is transferred to her and she stops following entity Jenny." After this, all her friends go to Greg's farmhouse. Now after a while, it gets dark, so everyone goes to sleep in one room. Then the next morning, Greg teaches Jenny how to shoot a gun. After that, everyone spends time together in the middle. But then we see that as Yara, that entity comes and grabs Jenny's hair and attacks her. So Paul tries to save her, but the entity kills her and throws her away and tries to hurt everyone. But everyone comes to the boathouse with Jenny, and then Jenny starts shooting at the entity with a gun. But nothing happens to the entity, so Jenny closes the door. But after a while, breaking the door, the entity starts coming in the form of Paul. Afraid of which, Jenny immediately leaves there and starts running away with Greg's car. But his friends try to stop him a lot. But Jenny does not stop and takes the car and goes fast. And then suddenly, another car comes in front of her and she gets into an accident. After this, when Jenny comes to her senses, she finds herself in the hospital. And she is very scared and she felt that the entity will come here again. Then we see that Greg comes and with Jenny's consent gets intimate with her in the hospital so that Jenny's curse comes inside her. And he can also help Jenny in fighting with the entity. Now after this, a few days pass, and during this time, Jenny does not see any entity. But still, Jenny spends most of the time at home and is worried. On the other hand, we see Greg, who meets Jenny's friend. So he asks Greg, "Did you see anything?" Which he takes casually and says that "I have not seen any entity yet, But it's possible that whatever Jenny sees is true or she has some illusion. But we should wait a little longer, he says, and leaves. Then that night, we see that Jenny was looking towards Greg's house through the window. Then she sees that Greg has slowly come from somewhere, broke the window of his own house and went inside, by which she understands that this is not Greg but an entity in his form. So she immediately calls Greg, but his call is busy. So she quickly runs to Greg's house, and from that window, she also goes inside. Then when she goes to Greg's room to wake him up, she sees that now that entity is knocking the door in Greg's mom's face. Then Jenny screams and says, "Greg, please don't open the door, your life is in danger." But Greg doesn't understand anything and he opens the door. And as soon as he opens the door, the entity breaks on Greg and kills him. And seeing all this, Jenny gets very scared and runs away with the car. Then she sees that the entity is now after her. So she does not stop the car and runs away from here and spends the night in the car. Then the next morning, she comes home with the car, where Paul comes and tells Jenny that I want to be intimate with you so that this entity will follow me. But Jenny refuses to do this and says that this entity will kill us all one by one. Then in the next scene, we see that Jenny and all her friends make a plan to kill the entity, and everyone takes a car and goes to a swimming pool far from home, where after going around the pool, they put a lot of electric machines. Actually, their plan was that when that entity will come here, looking for the entity, he will give electric shock and kill the entity. After that, Jenny gets down in the pool and starts waiting for the entity to come. And after waiting for a long time, we see that the entity comes there. But he does not come down to the pool because he might have understood his plan. So he starts throwing the electric machine at Jenny one by one, due to which she starts getting injured and thus she gets into trouble in the pool. But then Paul takes a gun and shoots at the entity, but she was not able to see him. Then Kelly puts a cloth on the entity, and then Paul shoots her, and she falls into the water. Now after this, he is able to bring Jenny out of the pool. Then the entity grabs her leg and pulls her back into the water. Then Paul starts shooting at the entity again, which causes one bullet to hit the head of the entity, and he leaves Jenny. After this, they take Jenny out of the pool. But now they couldn't see that entity all around. But the water in the pool slowly turns red from her blood. But they still had a doubt that the entity is dead or not, because like everyone else, Jenny has also seen only her blood. That's why Jenny has to listen to Paul even if she doesn't want to come home. And she becomes intimate with Paul so that Paul can help her. Now a few days pass, and both of them do not see any entity now. And they felt that maybe the entity is dead and will not come after them now. But at the end of the story, we see that when Paul and Jenny were walking together holding hands, then only an entity is coming after them. And with this scene, this story ends here.